Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing to a truly astonishing place, Kandovan, the rock-carved village in Iran.
Yeah, it's really something else. Situated near Tabriz, in East Azerbaijan province, specifically in the Osku district.
And it's nestled in this valley, right?
Yeah.
By the Kandovan River.
Exactly. It's built in the stepped way, clinging to the northern slopes of Arshad, which is part of the Sahand mountain range. It's got this incredibly steep, like 70-degree incline.
Wow, 70 degrees, that's dramatic. And the really special thing, the hook, is that it's not just ruins.
No, not at all. It's considered one of Iran's most amazing tourist villages, and it's pretty unique globally because people are still living there.
In homes carved from stone, like centuries ago.
Right. So our mission today, using some really interesting material we've gathered, is to give you a good, clear picture of what makes Kandovan so remarkable and why it's still this vibrant, living community.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The origins. How did this landscape even form?
Well, it all goes back to volcanoes, specifically Mount Sahand, which is dormant now.
Volcanic activity.
Precisely. Over thousands, maybe millions of years, eruptions deposited lava and this volcanic debris, mostly something called tuff. And then nature started sculpting.
Okay, so raw volcanic stuff gets shaped over ages. What did the sculpting?
Wind, rain, snow, just relentlessly working on these deposits. They wore away the softer part.
Leaving the harder bits behind.
Exactly. Leaving these harder, cone-like shapes we see today. The locals call them karin. Those are the rock homes. It's it's almost like a miracle of nature how it formed.
A geological wonder carved by the elements. And I read that the erosion wasn't even everywhere.
That's right. The western entrance of the village gets hit hardest by wind and rain, so there's more erosion there.
Okay.
But the karin further east, sort of towards the back, they're taller, better preserved, probably because higher hills shield them a bit.
So nature provided the canvas. When did people actually start moving in? Seems there are a few different ideas.
Yeah, there are several theories. One is that nomadic people used the area first, maybe for seasonal grazing.
Using the hollowed-out rocks already there.
Potentially, yeah, as temporary shelters. And then eventually maybe they just settled down, seemed practical, ready-made shelters.
Makes sense. Temporary to permanent. What are the other theories?
Another idea, quite compelling, is that warriors used it as a refuge.
Because it's defensible. High up on the slopes.
Exactly. Great natural protection. So they might have sought shelter there and then started carving out more permanent, larger spaces inside the karin.
A sanctuary that became a village. What sort of time frame are we talking about? Any consensus?
Well, some think it might even predate Islam in the region, but the strongest story, the one you hear most, links it to the Mongol invasion of Iran.
Okay. Turbulent times.
Right. The idea is that refugees from another village nearby, an underground one called Hilavar.
Hilavar. How close is that?
Just about 2 kilometers west. So people from Hilavar might have fled to Kandovan seeking safety in the rocks during the invasion. Maybe natural disasters like floods in Hilavar played a part too. So it seems born from seeking safety.
A haven. That really adds a human layer to the geology. And it's officially recognized now.
Yes, it was registered as a National Heritage Site in Iran back in April 1997.
And it's important to distinguish it from other rock sites.
Right.
Like Gorem in Turkey.
Absolutely crucial. Places like Garem or sites in Dakota in the U.S., they're amazing archaeological sites. But Kandovan, it's alive. People still live there day in, day out.
A living example of rock architecture.
Exactly. That's the key phrase. It's not just history, it's ongoing life.
Incredible. Let's talk about the name. Kandovan. Has a nice ring to it. Where does it come from?
The general belief is Turkish origins, probably from Kand, meaning village, Van, which is a common suffix for place names. So Kanvan, basically village place.
Simple enough. But I saw there were other ideas too, more descriptive ones.
Yes, definitely. Some connect it to the Persian word kandan.
Which means?
To dig or to carve, which, fits perfectly with how the homes were made.
Very fitting, yeah.
Then there's another theory linking it to kandui asal, that means beehive.
Beehive, why?
Could be a couple of reasons. Maybe the climate was good for beekeeping, or perhaps the hollowed out rocks just looked like beehives, or even like traditional grain storage bins called candies.
So carving, beehives, storage, all visual links. Any others?
There's one more interesting interpretation. It suggests Kandovan might be short for Kandovan or Kandovan.
And that means?
A house of oneself. From Kandi, meaning self, Ev, meaning house, and An as a place suffix.
A house of oneself. That's quite poetic. Captures the individual nature of these homes.
It does, doesn't it? Reflects how unique each carved dwelling is.
Okay, let's really dive into the architecture. These Quran, what are they like structurally?
Well, locally they're called ki, or more often Quran. That word Karan might come from krandan, meaning to wound or pour out or dig, all related to the carving process.
Or maybe infinite, like the rock itself.
Some suggest that too, yeah. Perhaps hinting at the vastness of the rock formations. Structurally, their space is carved right into these cone-shaped rocks.
And the shape and size depend
On what the family needed and how easy the rock was to work in that particular spot. You can find single cairn or pairs or whole clusters. Different shapes too, conical, spindle-like.
And they're made of that volcanic stuff, lahar and ignimbrite.
That's the material, yes. And some are incredibly tall, reaching over 60 meters. Think about that, a natural skyscraper that's also someone's home.
60 meters.
Yeah.
Just amazing. Where did the village start? Where are the oldest homes?
The earliest ones seem to be clustered around the old Grand Mosque, right in the village center.
Okay, the heart of the village.
Then, as the community grew, they expanded, first west, then towards the east.
And I read something interesting about marriage.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
Apparently, historically, having a carved house, a cairn, was often a requirement for a man to get married.
Seriously?
Yeah, often the groom's family had the job of carving out the new home. Talk about a serious commitment before the wedding.
No kidding. That's quite a task. But given the nature of the rock, expanding sideways must have been tough.
Extremely tough. You couldn't just add a room easily. There wasn't always suitable rock available right next door.
Right.
Plus, for stability, the walls had to be thick. Really thick. That inherently limits how big the rooms inside could be. The geology dictated the architecture, basically.
So how many floors do they usually have?
Most are 2 stories, but you do see 3, even 4-story cairns sometimes.
And how are the floors typically used?
Usually, the ground floor is a stable for animals, good use of space, and maybe some warmth rises.
That makes sense. And above that?
First floor is typically the main living space. Second floor might be a guest room. And if there's a third, often it's for storage.
Yeah.
Very practical vertical living.
And getting between floors, you mentioned external stairs.
Mostly, yes. Stairs carved right into the outside of the rock cone. What's interesting is there usually aren't internal stairs connecting the main floors.
Oh, really? So each level is sort of separate?
Pretty much. Preserves the function of each floor. There's apparently only one known case with internal stairs connecting the ground floor entrance to a basement storage area.
Fascinating. Are the rooms inside quite small then? For safety?
Generally, yes. Relatively small dimensions for structural integrity. But in larger spaces, like the mosque or maybe big livestock pens, they carved thick pillars out of the rock itself.
To support the ceiling?
Exactly. Everything relies on the strength of that carved stone.
So what are the main parts of a typical Quran home?
You'd have the main living area, which is multi-purpose, then a storage spot for bedding called yukiyeri, a kitchen area, the matbak, a general storage room, gazana, an entrance area, astada, and the threshold, astana, plus windows, and of course latrines, the abrizga.
Okay, let's step inside that main living area. What's the feel?
It's the hub, used for everything living, receiving guests, sleeping. Some have raised stone platforms, maybe covered with local rugs for sleeping.
Like kilibs and jejims.
Exactly those. Beautiful hand-woven rugs covering the floors, too. You'll see niches carved into the walls.
For what? Lamps? Books?
Lamps, books, mirrors, yeah. Little shelves built right in. Some even have hooks in the ceiling for hanging lamps. Everything's integrated.
And heating, cooking.
Historically, most had a tandoor oven built right into the floor, used for baking bread and, crucially, for warmth in winter.
Less common now.
Yeah, oil heaters are more common indoors now, so the tandoors are often in separate kitchens or outside. This shift actually allowed people to whitewash the walls inside.
Ah, okay. What do they use?
Originally, local white soil. Now, more often, plaster brought in from Osku nearby.
And the tandoors themselves, they're holes in the floor with ventilation.
Round holes, yeah, carved into the rock, and often they connect to natural funnel-like openings higher up in the cairn, which act like chimneys.
It's amazing to think this is all hand-carved. The precision.
It really is. Walls, niches, doors, windows, done with simple tools like axes, carving out solid rock. Quite incredible skill.
Truly. Now, you mentioned the yukiyeri for bedding.
Yes, it's a specific spot, a relatively large, flat area carved into the wall of the main room.
Just for bedding and clothes.
Primarily, yeah.
Yeah.
Quilts, mattresses, jejims, clothes, usually separated from the main living space by a curtain. Very practical storage solution.
Keeps things tidy in a unique space.
Yeah.
And the entrance, the Astana.
It varies. In bigger Kharan, it might be a separate little area for washing dishes, clothes, maybe even people.
And in smaller ones.
In smaller ones, there's often just a low stone wall to separate it from the main room to keep water out.